Hey everyone, here we are in the Chama yard in Chama, New Mexico. It's the day before the 2025 season opening, so we're looking forward to that. We're going to wander around the yard a little bit, take some pictures, see what's going on, see what's new. And we're really looking forward to tomorrow morning when the first train will go to Antonito, Colorado out of Chama. All right, you guys, let's check this out. The opening of the Cumbres Toltec Scenic Railroad is always a welcome event. It means winter is over and the summer months are upon us. The railroad normally opens on Memorial Day weekend, but this year it was delayed 1 week, a business decision according to Ed Beaudette, general manager of the railroad. I always like to check out the yard the day before. This year was even more important to me because the Friends webcams have been down for months, so there is no way to get that Chama fix that so many of us look forward to. I was surprised that the only activity I saw were a couple of guys straightening parking bumpers in the parking lot, and after wandering around, I was even more surprised to see 488 in the engine house without its tender, 489 and 463 behind the engine house without their drivers, and 492 still waiting in the yard for warmer weather before being reborn in a shop in Monte Vista. Off in the distance, I heard the sound of a steam engine's whistle, which was encouraging. 484 was running back and forth between the north part of the yard and the first crossing. The only K36 unaccounted for was 487, which made me hopeful that its piston and cylinder repair had been made and was ready to take the Antonito train out in the morning. I knew that the only other operable steam locomotive was 168, a small T12 that wouldn't be big enough for a full consist. 315 was still out of service and hiding in the roundhouse. Of course, there was the newly acquired 114, a diesel locomotive purchased from the White Pass in Yukon, but the promise was that it would only be used for MOW work to preserve the time on the steam boilers. One of the best times in the Chama yard is a couple hours before departure. The steam locomotive assigned to pull the train to Cumbres Pass pulls forward from the engine house where it has been simmering all night. First stop is the ash pit where the firebox is cleaned out. This was the first time I managed to get there early enough to see this. Next stop is a water tank where the tender is topped off, and then a coaling track where the front end loader fills the tender with coal. Then the locomotive, 484 in this case, is back down to the cars where it is coupled to its train. This time of day always attracts the more serious photographers, and it's wonderful to see old friends and miss the ones that aren't around anymore. We catch up on the latest information, including the cancellation of the Antonito train. No locomotives were available.
Good morning, and on behalf of my 79 colleagues who operate this railroad, I'm Ed Beaudette, and I really want to welcome everyone.
Opening day means opening ceremonies, including the raising of the flags by the local Boy Scout troop and speakers being introduced by Ed Beaudette.
I want to thank these young folks who come all the way from Aztec to be with us this morning. This is Scout Troop 179 from Aztec. They were with us last year, and they wanted to come back, and we really wanted to welcome back. Next, I'd like to welcome another member of the Cumbres and Toltec family, Mr. Wesley Schwartz, who has been with us in a variety of capacities over the years. He's now studying for a PhD in Arkansas, but he's come all the way over here to play for us this morning. Wesley? I think many of you might know, and for those who don't, the Cumbres and Toltec Railroad was formed over half a century ago, and it was quite unusual in that the two states of New Mexico and Colorado got together and purchased the remains of the Denver and Rio Grande Western, this beautiful section of line between Antonito, Colorado, and Chama, New Mexico. The railroad has been governed since that time by an oversight board consisting of two commissioners, two from Colorado and two from New Mexico. Mr. Billy Elbrock is here with us today. Kim Casford was unable to be attending, but Billy's here, and he'd like to welcome you as well this morning.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you all for coming out. This is one of the highlights of Chama is the opening day of the train. We're running a week late this year by design, but we welcome everybody for coming. I know some probably question as to why we did it. Well, we had business reasons to do it, but it's going to be a great season. We are going to run a week later in October, and we welcome everybody to come and ride the train. We all lose somebody in our lives. This last year, I lost a good friend. The railroad lost a good friend, and I would just like to say, Roger Hogan, thanks for all what you did for us. Thanks a lot. He was a great guy. Did a lot for the railroad. Just again, thanks a lot for coming out. We enjoy seeing all the people here. The more people, the better. I'll turn it over to Ed.
Thank you, Billy.
Scenic Railroad is such an amazing connection to the past and our shared history. I think, and I've been riding this thing since I was a kid, it is history come alive. And as I kind of blathered on about the last time I was here for the opening ceremony, it has that rare quality of massive appeal to children and adults. So I want to thank you all for allowing me to share in the celebration with you today, and I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to everyone who keeps this alive and going every year, especially the friends of the Cumbres and Toltec. The work you do is so important, and we are all grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt, for reinforcing what we all feel here at the Cumbres and Toltec, and thank you also for mentioning the friends. Not everybody knows that the railroad is more than just the operating railroad itself. It has a partnership with a volunteer organization that has been here doing this thing on their own as volunteers for over 3 decades now. And without the work of the volunteers, a lot of what you see here, the history that you see portrayed in front of you along the railroad, wouldn't be here. The wherewithal wouldn't be there. And these volunteers have devoted many, many millions of hours to support this. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Rick Garson. He's the Executive Director of the Friends, and he'd like to say a couple of words to you as well.
Okay. Our volunteer organization was founded 37 years ago as a 501c3 to partner with the railroad to promote and enhance restoration and preservation of the railroad's historic assets that are not used in regular tourist train operations. Our all-volunteer staff include working on the railroad cars, buildings, maintenance of way equipment, work, and signages. In addition, the Friends of the Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad supplied the docents that you'll see on today's train and all the trains that run during the season. They provide your ridership with interpretation of the local scenic landscape and features as the trains roll through this incredibly unique 64-mile ride between New Mexico and Colorado. As you ride along on your train trip, please feel free to ask your train docent about special sights along the way, as well as local history that you'll be seeing on this beautiful ride. This was part of the original path of the Denver, Rio Grande, and Western San Juan Extension Railroad. The pathway you ride is the same since the late 1880s. The Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad is truly a living, rolling train museum, and the Friends of the System and the Friends of the Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad welcome you all. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rides today.
Thank you, Wesley, and thank you to Jeremy Garcia, the engineer on today's train. This pretty much concludes the formal part of our presentation and our celebration today. We have one final speech. It'll be a short one, but for that I'm going to hand the mic over to Lucas Mays, our conductor on today's train. If you'd come forward, Lucas.
Morning. All aboard!